gunned down in the street by government agents as public enemy number one. Over 15,000 would attend the funeral of a national folk hero, John Dillinger. As the Depression left millions stranded in dire poverty, bank robbers developed reputations who took from the rich when most had so little. Yet as J Edgar Hoover took the reins of the FBI, the outlaw anti-hero faced a nemesis ironclad in its pursuit of morality and justice. Welcome to History on Fleek. Today we examine how John Dillinger helped make the FBI one of the most powerful institutes on Earth. Before the rise of Dillinger and a tumultuous start to the 20th century, it was President Theodore Roosevelt who founded the Domestic Bureau of Investigation. Under the urging of Attorney General Charles Bonaparte, the Bureau of Investigation was started in 1908. The importance of the Bureau was independence from politics. It would have its own staff and answer only to the Attorney General. Initially, the urge to have an investigative bureau was following the assassination of President William McKinley in 1901. Which fed the idea America had anarchist factions in its population. However, as the century hit its stride, pressing domestic issues of security rose. Following the First World War and the Russian Revolution of 1917, America feared far-left movements were on the rise in their own backyard. In the following decade, prohibition would be enacted in the U.S., with organized crime soon gaining control of the alcohol supplies. The institutional call for domestic law and order was on the rise. Born June 22, 1903, John Dillinger's life began in turbulence. Despite a middle-class, comfortable upbringing in Indianapolis, the young John Dillinger was always in trouble. His teenage years were riddled with theft and fighting. He left school and achieved his first arrest for car theft at 19 years old. This is believed to have cost him his relationship with his father. Shortly before turning 21, Dillinger met the love of his life, Beryl Ethel, and they married in April of 1924. However, the newlyweds struggled to make ends meet, and John decided that a robbery was one way to fast money. Unfortunately for Dillinger and his accomplice, Ed Singleton, their grocery store heist was witnessed and they both soon faced jail time. Dillinger spent a little under 10 years at the Indiana State Prison, where he met lifetime bank robbers including Charles Mackley, Russell Clark, and Harry Pete Pierpoint. Most of his sentence was spent planning robberies to commit upon release. In May 1933, Dillinger was paroled during the depths of the Great Depression, with a years-long study of bank robbing and the promise, "I will be the meanest bastard you ever saw when I get out of here." As Dillinger was dealing with his first arrests and being discharged from the United States Navy in the early 20s, J Edgar Hoover was on the rise. In 1924, he was made head of the Bureau of Investigation by President Calvin Coolidge. Hoover had long wanted the position, and to revolutionize the Bureau into a guarding force of the nation's laws, morals, and citizens. As the media, in particular Hollywood, depicted outlaws, gangsters, and bootleggers as romantic anti-heroes, Hoover was about constructing the image of government agents as an equally romantic foil. All agents were tall, white, college-educated men of the strictest moral code. No alcohol consumption or dating life was permitted. As the Great Depression came to the fore, Hoover had cultivated symbolism to counter that of the bank-robbing anti-heroes. G-men, hunting the lawless, often undercover with the best of technology, was soon as publicized as their criminal counterparts. Within days of his release, Dillinger robbed his first bank in Bluffton, Ohio. The authorities found and arrested him 5 months later and kept him in the Lima, Ohio County Jail. As Dillinger awaited the trial, many of Dillinger's friends escaped the Indiana State Prison with smuggled weapons, gunning down guards in the process. Within a month, these very escapees came to free Dillinger. They succeeded by gunning down the sheriff, taking the keys, and freeing their man before escaping. Dillinger and his gang began their spree, for which they would gain national notoriety. Not only did they pull off multiple bank heists, they also robbed police stations across Indiana, taking bulletproof vests and multiple weapons and ammunition. Amazingly, this wanton wanted gang soon deepened its reputation with the killing of police officers. Over the turn of 1934, the gang shot and killed 2 separate Chicago police officers, one during a bank robbery. While hiding in Florida in January 1934, the gang were recognized and arrested by local authorities. Dillinger was awaiting the trial of a murdered Chicago police officer in Crown Point, Indiana's county jail. Despite authorities claiming the facility was escape-proof, it turned out no task for John Dillinger. He fooled the guards with a piece of wood whittled to look like a gun and coerced his escape with it, taking 2 machine guns before fleeing. Despite Houdini-like feats, Dillinger had messed up in his escape. Stealing the sheriff's car to cross state lines was his first committal of a federal offense. John Dillinger had just openly attracted the attention of the FBI. Following a grand jury indictment, Dillinger was subject to a nationwide manhunt and considered public enemy number 1. Dillinger was on the run, and several of his fellow gang members were arrested and convicted of the sheriff murder months back. Hoover's strategy in building his G-men and a tireless, devoted force of justice was assigning special agents to the most important cases. He assigned Melvin Purvis and Samuel A. Cowley to lead the Dillinger hunt at their Chicago headquarters. Purvis and Cowley were renowned for the monomaniacal, self-abandoning pursuit of their work. The agents worked tirelessly, crawling Chicago for every clue and rumor, any potential tip-off. Dillinger lived under aliases and in hiding across the country, always one step ahead of the agents as bank robberies continued. Several tip-offs were given to suspicious aliases and tenants across Indiana and Illinois, yet Dillinger always managed to escape. Most famously, to the cost of embarrassment and agent lives, Dillinger and Babyface Nelson managed to escape a failed FBI raid at Little Bohemia. Purvis and Cowley finally got a tip they could capitalize on to capture Dillinger. A tip-off from a madam of a brothel in Indiana revealed future plans of Dillinger and an at-the-time girlfriend. Dillinger and 2 female companions attended the Biograph Theater in Chicago on Sunday, 22nd of July at 8:30, with Purvis and Cowley and their men on standby. J Edgar Hoover was even phoned by Cowley for advice. The agents were told to wait outside for Dillinger and not potentially start a shootout in the packed theater. At 10:30 p.m., Dillinger left the theater, and Purvis lit a cigar as a signal for his fellow agents. Dillinger is said to have grabbed for a pistol, realizing the situation. He was gunned down by FBI agents outside the theater, suffering 3 bullet wounds. Dillinger was pronounced dead just 20 minutes later. Hoover's G-men had their reputations bolstered by taking down one of the country's most famous criminals. Though ironically, Purvis would be demoted by Hoover for the praise lavished on him for the events. The death of Dillinger marked the fade of the gangster era. Hoover's FBI overhaul was complete. Dillinger, like many outlaws of his era, arrived at the right time to cultivate a positive image in the public's eyes. The Great Depression hemorrhaged the U.S. before it spread across the globe in the largest economic downturn in history. Numbers don't do justice the horror felt by many left jobless, homeless, and without the means to feed themselves. Yet they give a jaw-dropping overview. As the global GDP dropped by a whopping 15%, the entire United States infrastructure was rattled to its core. From 1929 to 1932, of the 25,000 banks in the U.S., 11,000 failed. In the same time frame, the national GDP fell 30%, house building dropped by 80%, and the stock market lost an incredible 90% of its value. The effect on everyday citizens was stark. The average household income in America lost 40% in this time frame. Come 1933, the federal government recognized 60% of the population were demonstrably living in poverty. Over 250,000 people were evicted from their homes, and thousands lined the streets, unemployed with nowhere to go. People blamed the banks and the institutes for failing them and leaving them in the abyss. Dillinger and his bank robbing arrived at the same time and became a folk hero because of it. When people had lost it all thanks to the banks, outlaws were taking it directly from the banks and even kidnapping the rich. The FBI declared Dillinger public enemy number 1. The public mainly saw a handsome outlaw giving hell to institutes that had fundamentally failed them. This is History on Fleek, and we'll see you next time.